Hello collectors, welcome to the latest episode of the unboxing experience. I'm Joe Prodzik. Today I'm going to be unboxing the VEGA exclusive statue from Pop Culture Shock. Now VEGA is the first statue to be released from the PCS Ultra line of statues. Now PCS has a long history of releasing Street Fighter statues. Traditionally, they're done in mixed media and they have the standard black bases. Well, the Ultra line is a little bit different. The Ultra line is fully sculpted, has much more artistic style bases, and is true quarter scale. So while I'm not going to be collecting the whole line of Ultra line of statues, I did want to get this first one, especially because it's got a VEGA on it. Now, PCS previously did release a VEGA statue, and now it's pretty expensive, a couple grand I think, to get your hands on a VEGA statue these days. And so this is their update of the character. So I'm a big fan of the Street Fighter video game series. I've been playing Street Fighter games since the original out in the arcade. I remember going to the arcade and pounding on those two big giant buttons that they had. And then when Street Fighter 2 was released on Super Nintendo, me and my friends used to play it all the time. We eventually moved on to Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, all kinds of different versions of Street Fighter, Street Fighter 4, and now Street Fighter 5. So I do love the Street Fighter series of video games. I love watching the animes. I love reading the comic books. One thing about this game is I'm not very good at it anymore. I do still like to play it, but for some reason, me and that combo system just button heads. I am just terrible at the game. So I generally stick to the one-player version of it, the challenge mode, story mode, and things like that. But when I do go online, I can somewhat hold my own a little bit, win a couple matches here or there, but mostly just ends in frustration for me because I revert to button mashing instead of remembering all my combos. And I don't like to block all that much. I think Street Fighter V is a very defensive game. But that being said, I do still love the characters. Out of all the fighting games out there, this is my favorite set of characters. So really looking forward to opening up this VEGA statue from Street Fighter. So PCS released a couple of different versions of this statue. They released their regular version, which is available through retailers around the web. Now they're available through the Sideshow website as well. And they do an exclusive version, which is what I have here today, which has a switch out portrait. And then they also do a player 2 version of the statue, which comes with different colors. In this case, instead of his blue and yellow pants or purple and yellow pants, he comes with green pants. So this exclusive version has an edition size of 375 and is priced at $424.99. Now that's a little bit more expensive than the traditional Street Fighter statues that they have. This one is going to be bigger. It's going to have a more artistic, more designed base, and it's going to be fully sculpted rather than mixed media. So while I am going to continue to collect the traditional mixed media Street Fighter statues from Pop Culture Shock, I'm not going to be continuing with the Ultra line. I just wanted to pick up this first Ultra line statue to show you what this line is all about. Now, one thing I was wondering before I opened the box was whether or not the art box style was going to change. I thought maybe this is a new line, it's a different line, maybe they would change it up a little bit. But Pop Culture Shock decided to stick with their traditional box design of the rest of their Street Fighter statues. So you just got some images of VEGA here on the box. And then here on the back, you have a profile of VEGA. So you got some stats, birth date, height, weight, country of origin, first appearance, Street Fighter 2, and his moveset, and then a little bio of him here. So it's the traditional Pop Culture Shock box for this. Weight-wise, in the box, feels about medium, not super heavy, but it doesn't feel light either. So let's get down to business and get this guy open and put together. 317 of 375. I really like that PCS gives you these certificates in with the statue. You can get some acrylic holders for them as well, display them next to the statue. They all are signed by the president of Pop Culture Shock, Jerry Macaluso. Alright, first thing that's different about this statue is this one comes with an art print. Now, I've never received a statue with an art print from Pop Culture Shock. Typically those come from a different company, but they have one here for VEGA. And it looks like it's hand signed as well. So that's a pretty nice addition. I don't currently have any Street Fighter art in my collection, so I think that is a great addition. I really like that to go along to display with the statue. So here is VEGA inside the box. That is a heavy base. Now, I've unboxed a couple of statues in the past couple of weeks. This will be my third statue this month. And this, so far, I think the base is heavier than the other statues when assembled completely. So this is a solid and heavy base. Now this base is a lot more stylized, as you can see, than their traditional Street Fighter statues. Go to the bottom, number 117. It's got a lot of intricate details on it. Got some snakes. It's got that VEGA mask there on the front. Really cool. So one thing that base means is this statue is going to be a lot taller than Street Fighter statues typically are with their more flat bases. So far, everything is looking good. I'm not seeing any loose pieces, any breakages inside the box. And here is VEGA's body. Looks good so far. How is he gonna go in there? Okay. Didn't look like that was gonna go in there, but it did. Doesn't look, looks pretty stable. Looks pretty good so far. Now before we get that head on, I'm gonna adjust the camera. All right, you've seen the base. So I just wanted to adjust the camera so that you can see the full statue. Like I said, this is gonna be a little bit taller than traditional Street Fighter statues. Plus it's true quarter scale statue as well, so it's gonna be bigger anyways. So here we have VEGA's sash, which should fit in right like that, easily grabbed by the magnet. Now we have a couple of different options here. We've got a hand with the mask on it. You can see on the back, his fingernails sticking up there. Really cool. Now we got a hand with metal claws. Another right hand that's outstretched. You can see his perfectly manicured fingernails there. And now PCS gloves, which sometimes I use, sometimes I don't. They're notoriously small, and I have small hands already, and they don't even barely fit me either. Right here is head number 1. So this is the masked portrait. Looks really cool. So that's the one I'm going to put on first. There you go. So with the masked portrait on, we'll go with the maskless right hand. And the clawed left hand. So there's Vega's first look. So overall first impressions, I am really happy with the statue. It looks fantastic. This is absolutely Vega. It's got a traditional Vega stance. You know, some people don't like the classic Street Fighter line, the museum pose Street Fighter line, because it lacks some dynamic poses. This one is definitely a dynamic pose, and that's what they're doing with the Ultra line of statues. So this is a very Vega-like pose. He's got his hand outstretched kind of pose is you know, slightly feminine in that way. Vega is slightly feminine with his looks and his appearance and his, you know, his kind of nature, the way he talks and everything is a little bit more effeminate than some of the other characters. Definitely like the options. You know, I'm going to have a hard time deciding between how I'm going to display him, because I like both of the display options. I really like the style of the statue. It's very much like very artistic. I don't want to say like comic booky, but it is like rather than a more realistic look, it's more of a artistic kind of cartoon video game look. I mean, this is from a video game. Vega's from a video game. They do comic books, they do anime, so it should be in that style rather than a more realistic style. So I do really like that about the statue. Now I am going to switch him to his alternate pose, which comes with, you know, second hand with the mask. Really, really cool. So he'll have his mask here. And we'll get that second maskless head out for you. Okay. Just want to be careful I'm not scratching his hair on his back. Get some paint rub marks on there. So there is his maskless face there. Still has, you know, that great likeness to Vega. He's got his tongue sticking out a little bit. He's got his hair swept in his face, which so does the masked portrait. So in Street Fighter V, you can, his mask can get knocked off. Is that Street Fighter V or is that Street Fighter 4 that I'm confusing that with? I think it's Street Fighter 4 where he gets his mask knocked off and then you have to pick it back up or or something. It's been a little while since I played that, so but I really like the two options here. I'm not sure how what my preferred way of displaying him is, because both options look just look really good. So now this is the first statue in the Ultra line. Like I said, this line of statues is going to be fully sculpted rather than mixed media. So it is a little bit different than the Street Fighter statues that we're used to, but the sculpt, I think, is just really, really good. Yeah, I think it's just really outstanding. You know, the musculature is great. The face is, you know, classic Vega look. His fingernails have that, you know, manicured but sharp look that Vega has. His costume, you know, supremely accurate. And then the base to go along with them is great too. So, and I really like the hair, how the hair is sculpted. You know, he's got a very long braid that's sort of swooping around his back. I just think is fantastic. Now the paint too is also really good. You know, I always check around the lines, right? Like where the shoes meet the socks, where the socks meet the costume, where the sash meets his body. You know, you want to see if there's any overpaint or anything like that. Now, it's very, very difficult to spot any sort of mistakes or errors. Now, I'm looking at this super up close for those errors. So if I'm having a hard time finding anything like that, then from your normal display difference, even kind of close, you're really not going to notice it. One thing that you do notice, and like I said, I've opened up, unboxed a couple of different statues from a couple of different companies earlier this month. One thing I'm noticing on the paint with Vega is how just smooth it is. It's really not like, really not thick like some of the other statues. It's really done to a high quality and a high standard. Now he doesn't have a lot of highlights, a lot of shading in his costume. There's, you know, not a lot of that in him like there would be on some other statues, but I think the sculpt is so good that it creates that kind of effect more naturally. You know, the shadows in his legs are created naturally by the sculpt and the light rather than highlighting with paints, and so I think that's really good. Yeah, paint just looks really smooth, really clean. You know, looking at the snake on him, you can see it kind of looks like a decal. If you're looking super close, it kind of looks like it's a decal that's been placed on him. If you're looking really, really close, and I can't even look that close without my glasses, there's a slight edge that you see there to it. But you would have to, it's so small and so infinitesimal, it doesn't take away from the statue at all. Yeah, but you have to get in really close to see anything like that. And really, you're not going to look at your statues that close anyway. Though we do it for the unboxing and the reviews, normal people aren't going to look at it like that. But paint is really clean, really smooth. It's simple, but it's done well and it's executed well. So yeah, just spinning the statue around, you know, looking at the light in the shadows, the recesses, and the shadows that are created by just the light, it's really good and really good quality. You know, looking at all the details, you know, that especially that mask, you know, really smooth paint on that mask. White isn't easy to paint, but I think that's done super well. You know, I have some statues with some white uniforms on, and it just is not done well. You do see some more highlights sort of in the white of his stockings and legs. It's not pure white in there, so you're going to want to highlight that or shade it a little bit more to see those recesses, because it'll be harder to get the shadows in there. But yeah, just looking at his musculature here, the shadows are, you know, created in the sculpt and not necessarily by the paint. So really, really great paint on this statue. Classic PCS. I have 2 PCS statues already. I have Ryu and Goken, and I've been super impressed with them. And now this Vega is making me just even more impressed. You know, I think it's outstanding. So overall quality of the statue is really good. I've had no breaks. Some people I've seen have complained about a little bit of paint smear from pieces touching each other, and I don't have that here. So you just want to be careful, especially with this red sash. If you're going to rub it on the statue at all, just be careful when you're putting it on there. That way you're not rubbing any of that dark red against the pants or the body. He feels stable. Like I said, this base is really heavy. I don't really want to pick him up too much, but if I'm going to pick him up and move him around, you know, I don't know if I would be comfortable doing that, though I think I would be more comfortable taking the body off the base before moving it. But he feels very stable. The statue isn't leaning, it isn't wiggling at all. When touching the sash, it does wiggle a little bit, so you do want to be careful with that if you're moving him. Like I said, you don't want to rub any of that paint onto the statue, but right now I have no rubs. The statue does have some good weight to it. I'm holding his head in my hands. It's definitely not light. It's definitely it's not super heavy, but it's not super light either. So it's got some good weight to it. The statue seems very stable. He was boxed to good. PCS boxes their stuff. He was encased in some styrofoam padding around the art box. So overall quality of the statue is very high, you know. Really, yeah, I don't think he's gonna have any problem with leaning at all. He feels nice and stable. Very good. Yeah, overall, I am super happy with this Vega statue. I think he's gonna look great in my collection. I don't quite know where I'm gonna put him yet, though. Kind of been debating on where I'm gonna put my Street Fighter collectibles, especially because this statue and a couple of the others I'm getting, Akuma 1/3, Ryu 1/3, are going to be a little bit taller. Now this statue is a little bit taller than most Street Fighter statues. I don't normally measure my statues like this, but you could say he's just almost about 2 feet tall. You know, which isn't a super tall statue. I think Lobo is like 27 inches, but he is a little bit taller than the other Street Fighter statues in my collection. So, you know, kind of been debating on putting the Street Fighter statues in the Detolfs, or maybe putting him in the Bestas. I do think he'll fit in a single cube of the Besta, as long as I give him some more room. I fit the Batman Premium format in there just fine, so I think I'll be able to fit Vega in there too. Overall, I think he's going to be a great statue in my collection, especially my Street Fighter collection. And honestly, you know, I had previously decided, hey, I'm not going to go for the Ultra line, I'm just going to stick to the classic mixed media line. Now I'm kind of doubting myself on that decision. This statue is so, you know, executed so well, and it's at a good price point. $425 for a quarter scale statue is really pretty good. And the action and the dynamic pose, the options that you get, you know, 2 different poses here, the art print that you get, the quality that you get from Pop Culture Shock is just outstanding. I'm really looking forward to getting more statues from Pop Culture Shock. Should be getting in the 1/3 Akuma early January. Super excited to get that. But this Vega piece, just outstanding. If you're a Street Fighter fan, if you're a Vega fan, if you're a video game fan, this would be a great statue to add in your collection. I'm happy that I added him to my collection. Now, I'll be doing a full review of this statue in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. You want to keep up to date on all my statue reviews and unboxings. Well, thanks for joining me on the latest episode of the Unboxing Experience. Let me know what you think of this VEGA statue in the comments section below. Now make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on all of my latest unboxings, reviews, and every 2 weeks, the show called Statue Talk, where me and my friend Kwong sit around, talk about the latest previews, pre-orders, and updates to our collections. Also, check out my website, statuereview.com, and give me a like on Facebook. I try to share all the latest news from around the statue world to those 2 places. So if you want to keep up to date on all the previews, pre-orders, make sure to check that out. And remember, statue collecting is more than just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. This has been Joe Prodzik for Statue Review. Thanks for watching.